Thanks for joining us, and welcome to episode 118 of the Clive Barker Podcast. In this episode, we're joined by Max Lichtor of the Pyramid Gallery to break down the results of the Duels of Blood Round 1, which you can find at www.duelsofblood.com, and the new matchups for Round 2. Have you voted yet? After that, we'll give you an exclusive glimpse of the 2008 unused Hellraiser remake treatment, so keep on listening. Before we get to that, I wanted to mention that this episode is sponsored by Geordie Calendar. Geordie is a very customizable calendar and organizer with icons, themes, wallpapers, and settings available to make your calendar look the way you want. If you have an iPhone or iPad, Geordie can sync with default iOS calendar, so you don't need to re-enter your calendar appointments. And if you don't have an iPhone, Geordie is also available on Android. If you use Google Calendar, Geordie can sync to your Google Calendar events, and Geordie also offers its own cloud service, Geordie Cloud, to keep your entries backed up and your calendar in sync so you have a smartphone, if you have a smartphone or a tablet. Geordie also has a unique feature we call event calendars, where you can follow calendars of events on news on a variety of topics. For example, you can do sports teams, and for horror fans, there is a Shock Till You Drop calendar that you can also follow if you know that horror blog, which sometimes we've had we've shared their stories on our blog. So there are many more event calendars available in Geordie. To add them, you simply tap the calendar icon in the lower left toolbar in Geordie, and then tap on Add Calendar, and then browse or search the directory and add an event that you're interested in. We'd love you to give Geordie a try. Search for it now on the App Store or Google Play. It's spelled JORTE. Or use the custom link http://bit.ly/pinhead calendar. So we have our own custom link, and they'll know you heard about it from the Clive Barker Podcast. And I'm giving it a try, and I think you should too. We're going to be talking about Duels of Blood. So the round 1 voting is over, and we can go over the results really quick there. I think some of them were not a big surprise, like the very first one, Pinhead versus the Chatterer. Pinhead beat him by quite a bit. It was like 65% of the votes went to Pinhead. Which, sorry, Nicholas Vince, but we thought the Chatterer probably had the best chance out of anybody in Hellraiser.
Sure.
Yeah. So Pinhead's going to go on to the next round, and the Chatterer is out, unfortunately. This is kind of weird. I don't know if it's the same thing with basketball, but like the Chatterer, if he had started out against a weaker character, he would have gone a lot further in the tournament.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. We got female Cenobite versus the Puzzle Guardian, and female Cenobite won by 74% of the votes. So that was a really big one. I like the Puzzle Guardian, but I guess because it's not, a human actor, probably didn't help.
What was it? I just think people like female Cenobite more.
Yeah.
I just think they do.
And Butterball versus the Engineer. Butterball had 75% of the votes, so the Engineer is out. So he wheeled himself away, I guess.
Hey, Simon wins.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, didn't he? He was in a deleted scene in Hellbound, but still, it wasn't enough. And Dr. Chenard versus Leviathan. So this is the opposite. We have an actual inanimate. Well, I guess it's animate because it spins around.
Mm-hmm.
But Leviathan won versus Dr. Chenard, which I didn't expect that at all. Did you guys think that was?
Thought Chenard would win that one for sure.
Yeah.
I was pretty sure Leviathan would pull through because he's actually the animator of Chenard. So
sure.
Yeah.
I guess if it were a fight, definitely Leviathan would win.
I'm interested to see what happened with Baphomet and Cabal.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, right. That's the same kind of thing. And then CD versus Pseudo Pinhead. I think we all kind of predicted this. 77% of the votes went to CD, and actually, I expected it to be even more of an upset, because Pinhead Jr. or Pseudo Pinhead from Hellraiser Revelations is not great.
No, not at all.
It's hard to think of anybody casting a vote, but who knows?
Yeah, he got 55 votes.
Wow.
And Angelique versus Abigor was kind of close, but Angelique won it in the end, so she's going on. Bound versus the Wire Twins. The Wire Twins took that by not very much. It was just 58% of the votes. And go ahead.
No, that's not bad.
Yeah. And Tiffany versus Julia. So Tiffany didn't make it. Julia went on with 62% of the votes, which makes sense. I mean, Tiffany only had one line and was only in one movie. So
Right.
this one was kind of a slaughter, and I guess it makes sense for a lot of reasons. But Harry D'Amour beat Gentle from Imagica. So Harry D'Amour being in so many things and kind of throughout Clive Barker's works, it makes sense that he would be more recognizable. And we just had kind of an artistic picture for Gentle.
Mm-hmm.
Right. We also have Scott Bakula actually playing the role as well. So
Yeah,
he's known for so many other things that he's done.
that's true. Rawhead Rex versus Christopher Carrion was close, but Christopher Carrion beat him. So Rawhead Rex, Rawhead Rex is down into his back into the grave again.
Even the cool graphic novel Rawhead Rex.
Yeah, we thought that would give him a better shot, right? Because we were originally you were thinking the movie screenshot, but it probably did help, but not enough. And then this one is really, really interesting. Mr. Hood versus Wick. So Wick was winning through most of the round one, and then Mr. Hood sort of overtook him at the end.
I was going to say, when did that? Because every time I checked, Wick was ahead, and then I saw the results that Hood won. I was kind of surprised.
Yeah. So only 52%. So he just barely overtook him. And this is another one I couldn't really tell how it was going to go. Mater Motley versus the Jaff. So the Jaff won, but only just barely.
Wow.
And Jimothy Terry from Aberrat beat Maximilian Bacchus by 2 votes.
Oh, man.
Oh, wow.
Bummer.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bacchus was ahead every time I looked, so that's a surprise, too.
Yeah.
I wish I had voted a couple of more votes on him, but that, wouldn't have been ethical for me to try to skew the poll.
Every time I would work on the site, I would do 1 round of votes, but I didn't reload and vote again.
Right. Yeah,
I did about 6 rounds of voting.
Oh, wow.
That's for me.
I probably did 4 rounds.
Yeah.
And Yabu versus Squiller, I was really surprised that Yabu won because I didn't think many people even knew about the Jump Tribe. And Squiller is a bit player in Aberrat.
Well, he's kind of an obscure little character, and I guess...
Yeah, he is. And Yabu won.
Yeah.
Pio Pa versus the Neolithic. I guess... I wonder if we can kind of attribute this to not really having a great picture of the Neolithic available to us.
Could be. I mean, I don't know. Sacrament... I don't know if Sacrament is high up in the list of favorite books.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's
for
probably
Clive Barker
not.
fans. I don't know. It's kind of like a in-between book. I don't know.
Yeah, Anthony Breer, the Razor Eater versus the Rake. The Rake just beat him by, double the amount of votes.
Oh, wow.
So Anthony Breer's not going to make it.
So the Rake moves on.
Yeah.
He's a pretty cool character, and there's a connection there with the Cenobites. So
yeah.
And there's Richard Kirk's artwork in the poll, so that helps a lot too.
Cabal versus Baphomet. So Cabal beat him a lot by double. I know you were looking for that one. So
right.
Yeah, 68% of the votes went to Cabal, so he's going to be going on. Poor Baphomet. Maybe if he could move a little more often, he might have had a chance. And Kinski versus Ghost. So this one we kind of did to be funny, just because it's both characters played by Nicholas Vince, but actually Ghost got a lot more votes than I thought he would. It's
63% for Kinski, so Ghost didn't make it, of course, but still.
That is surprising because Kinski is such a favorite character, the series.
Yeah.
Whether the comic books or the movie itself. So
Yeah.
He's a big part of the Nightbreed. Yeah, he's a big part of the Nightbreed. A lot of people identify Kinski immediately with the Nightbreed because
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say because of the weird shaped head and the Mac tonight connections and the fact that he's from like the kind of the inner circle of the Nightbreed or whatever. So he's a very cool character, and of course with the new director's cut of Nightbreed and all the extra material, and that was a real treat to see Kinski dance around with Clive Barker on set.
Yeah. Right, and honestly, probably most people don't even realize that Ghost is the name of one of the Berserkers. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think Onaka says it really quietly, or, when he's trying to lure them away from Laurie, but...
Yeah, we said that last episode.
Yeah. So speaking of Laurie, we've got Laurie versus Decker, and I was really pulling for Laurie because, I've never met David Cronenberg, but yeah, Dr. Decker won this round, so it was kind of close. 53% of the votes went to Decker, so he moves on.
She got him in the movie, though.
Yeah, and this one we had no idea. Peliquin versus Shunasasi. We had no idea which one was going to come through. It was really close, like just within a couple of votes most of the time, but Shunasasi pulled ahead with 53% by the end.
That was a real hard one for me to even vote on because I love both of the characters so much.
I alternated votes.
I did Peliquin all the time.
Yeah. Oh, really?
I've always liked Peliquin.
He's cool.
Yeah.
I guess Peliquin hit it and quit.
Yeah, that was it.
Well, he's kind of the Boba Fett of Nightbreed because he looks cool, but he doesn't really do a whole lot. You expect him to go nuts and kill a whole bunch of the Sons of the Free, but he kind of just gets hit by a truck.
He's kind of like the Wolverine of the Nightbreed, I guess.
Well, yeah, I guess his attitude for sure.
It's a good analogy, actually. It's cool.
There's a lot of backstories in the comics and whatnot that really make that character a lot more richer.
Yeah. Eigerman versus Ashbury. Ashbury won, and Eigerman did not. I mean, neither one of them are really good guys, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, Ashbury was, in the director's cut, was kind of a good guy for a short time.
Yeah.
And I think, Jose, this next one, Mexico versus Chocolat, I think that you had an influence on the outcome of this one because you had mentioned that she had a better backstory and Mexico was ahead all the way up until then, and then she's pulled ahead.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So she.
I know that influenced my vote when I,
Yeah, me too. Me too. Yeah. I sort of turned around on it.
That's surprising. I mean, I know that Chocolat. She has a interesting backstory, like you said. But Mexico, I don't know. I mean, you hardly see him. He's just in the back in the last scene in the barn and stuff like that. And I guess most people don't even realize that he's in the movie.
He's more of a promotional image.
Sure, sure. Yeah.
And Lylesburg versus Rachel. So Rachel won this one versus Lylesburg.
How close was it?
55% for Rachel, so it was really close.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
But Lylesburg's character, I think, Jose, you were talking about this with Philip, I guess, that Lylesburg's character, it would be kind of nice if he was a little more... If he was a little...
Sure. Yeah, like yesterday, we were talking on private message with Philip O'Neill, who's working on the Nightbreed fan edit. And it's cool because he's had access to some of the work print footage that was used to make the Cabal cut. And so I'm looking forward to see what comes out of there. Unfortunately, I think he had some trouble with software, but I think he's recovering most of the work that he did. But it's all in his head, so he'll just get back into the groove of it in no time, I guess. But yeah, Lylesburg is just I wish, and I think Doug Bradley has mentioned this before at some point, that I think he wished that the character had a better material to work with, because he's really just kind of a very conservative lawgiver, It reminds me of the lawgiver from the island of Dr. Moreau a little bit.
Yeah.
Including some of the early makeup tests that they did for Lylesburg. He was much more pale than he ended up becoming. And, the lawgiver in the island of Dr. Moreau is a completely white character. I think he's made out of like a goat or something like that.
Yeah, it's a goat.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I wish that he would have taken a more constructive stance when the Sons of the Free are charging Midian, because
he's just telling everybody just to hide in their houses.
Yeah. So
I wonder if the contrast is to kind of compare him to the mortals, norms outside, where he's kind of I don't want to say regressing, but becoming less breed-like. I wonder if that was intentional or if it was just.
Good point. One of the things about Lylesburg that I also think justifies the way he acts is that it was done on purpose to give Boone his moment of leadership. So he can be an incompetent leader, so Boone can step in that suspension bridge where they're at during the storm, and then he can be like, "No, don't listen to him. You'll all be slaughtered." And then he takes on. That's the moment when Boone kind of takes on the leadership of the Nightbreed onto his shoulders.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and Rachel can do cool stuff, and she actually helped rescue Boone from jail. So maybe that could be a part of it too.
That's true.
And there's nudity involved. That's always good.
Yep. So Narcisse versus Onaka was really close all the way through. They went back and forth on who was ahead, but it ended up being Narcisse at the end. Only by 4 votes.
Wow.
I mean, you can't beat Narcisse. I mean, I'm sorry, Onaka, but it's like Narcisse is just too charismatic. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but Simon Bamford went on as Butterball. So at least he's got another round in him.
But he's facing Leviathan, so good luck, Simon.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's going to be a pretty good matchup, I think.
Yeah.
Me too.
We got Nyx versus the Unconsumed, and Nyx won. And we don't have a picture of the Unconsumed. All we got is like a symbol from the cover of Scarlet Gospels. Yeah. So Nyx is a little more recognizable. Probably more people know him. The Unconsumed, you kind of have to think back about the book and what was he like? But I thought he was one of the highlights of the Scarlet Gospels.
I miss Daniel von Bargen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a shame. But Nyx goes on. Immaculata versus Tesla from The Great and Secret Show. So Tesla won.
I thought Immaculata was going to win that.
I'm surprised with that. Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, Immaculata was more powerful for sure.
This is the first time I'm seeing the winners, by the way. Really shocked by
there's a link up at the top where you can click on round 1 results or round 2 voting.
Oh, okay, I see it. I was looking for that. Thanks.
Well, I was just kind of doing it for a surprise.
Oh, okay.
For myself, I just wanted to wait to see who the winners were.
Yeah.
Okay,
so Uriel the Scourge versus Candyman. I thought this would be a lot closer, but it was not at all.
It was
Candyman totally annihilated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was almost 100 votes difference.
Yeah. 75% of the votes went to Candyman.
Yeah.
The Candyman can. So Jacobok Botch versus Domingo de Borondo was also kind of similar. 70% of the votes went to Jacobok.
I was really hoping the clown would win. I really like that character from that story.
I think we've got a mass market book versus a limited edition book.
Sure, and not just that, but the main protagonist of a book versus a smaller.
The demon versus the clown. I mean,
Yep, so he rolled his ball off of the end of the world and he's gone.
Well, he came back up when the moon came up, so.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful book. Have you read that book, Max? I don't know if I asked you this.
No, I have not actually.
Okay.
I did read, Mr. Be Gone, but I have not read.
It's a very small but very entertaining book. It reads more like a children's book or like a fable. It's very nice. I recommend it.
Didn't you get a early copy of that, or?
I did from Roy from Bad Moon Books. It was an uncorrected proof before the book came out, and
Okay.
he was asking if anybody was interested in buying a copy on social media, and so I was one of the people who got on board, and I bought it. So I read it before it came out as a small hardcover, but the version I had did not have illustrations. So
I see.
yeah.
Very cool.
So Simon McNeill versus the Yattering. The Yattering won by a lot, which that was surprising. I mean, I think, but I guess The Yattering and Jack maybe is a better Books of Blood short story than the Book of Blood. I don't know. It's hard to say.
Well,
It's different in tone.
Yeah. Well, and comparing characters, Simon McNeill is not a great character. I mean, he's not a likable character.
No, not in the story at all.
Maybe the Yattering maybe is more interesting of a character.
Yeah, one's a fraud and the other's a trickster, and there's a big difference between those two.
Yeah.
So between Harvey Swick and Candy Quackenbush,
Holy cow, that was close.
it was very close. But Harvey Swick won with 94 votes against Candy Quackenbush, and I can't explain it, but I guess it's just personal preference from the voters.
It was hard to choose. I mean, that's another one that I just went back and forth on. The City of Popolac beat the Unbeheld, and I think we kind of predicted that last time. So Hepexamendios did not make it.
Yeah, he's not a very likable character at all.
No, he's not.
Yeah, so
And,
Popolac moves on, and then we have Judith Odell versus Jacqueline S. And Jacqueline S. won by a wide margin, 128 votes against 43 votes for Judith, which is pretty understandable. Jacqueline S. is a much more interesting character. Judith is kind of like she's an object of desire between two men, and it's like she does become a powerful woman and a powerful character in her own right, but I don't know, she's just not that she couldn't hold a candle to Jacqueline S, I guess.
Yeah she's not she's not as big a protagonist, that's for sure.
I didn't like her really.
Judith?
Yeah, I just didn't like Judith.
Man, I haven't read Imagica in like 20 years, so.
What is what's happening with the film for Jacqueline S?
I think it's in development hell.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I think that they're still trying to find money for it.
I see.
Yeah, they were shopping around in the movie and movie market, but I think Raven Banner is still attached to it, as well as Jovanka Vukovic. But I think that the last we heard is they're still trying to secure funding for it, unfortunately. But, that's the problem with a lot of things nowadays, is that people don't take risks anymore. Like yesterday I was watching this video orchestration called Megaplex that I posted on my Facebook page. But it's this thing that a guy did, a Vimeo channel called Smash TV, and this guy took 1.5 years and 80 different movies, and so he made this super music mix, and he cut in all these pieces from different movies, and he made this amazing 1 hour and 20-minute video. And one of the videos that keeps appearing is, you remember Trash in Return of the Living Dead?
Yeah,
she was played by Linnea Quigley.
Yes.
The Mohawk, I think.
Yeah, I was telling Sarah that nowadays nobody would ever make a horror movie where a character strips down naked and dances in camera. It's like that just would not happen. It just doesn't happen. In the 80s, they took chances. They took risks and they made movies that broke barriers. But nowadays, it just feels like, unless it's a sure thing or like an IP, an intellectual property that's already established with like a cult following, that can provoke like a groundswell, and all that lingo that they use in marketing. Unless it's something like that, then I think that the investors won't put money into it because it's just the way that the movie market is evolving right now.
Well, and it seems like violence there's no limit. Right. I mean, you can do anything, but nudity and sex has kind of regressed a little bit.
That's true. And that's one of the things that exists in abundance in Clive Barker works is that there's a lot of sex, there's a lot of, sensuality, I think. And so I guess it's hard for some people to want to do it that way. I mean, the Hellbound Heart would just be difficult to translate literally into a movie because there would be scenes that would be almost, unfortunately, I want to say impossible to put in a movie out there, even an R-rated movie. I don't know if people would accept some of the things that Hellbound Heart shows, like a woman sitting on a pile of heads with tongues spread
in her lap,
all over her thighs and scarification of her labia exposed. That's not going to show up in a movie, even if it's R-rated. Right. It's just a little too much. But hey, I mean, there was stuff that was done in the 80s that was kind of close to that, and they did it, and it became cult classics. It may not have been a financial success at the time, but definitely the test of time has turned some of these movies into classics.
Well, that's really the key, is to really dwell in the kind of the shadowlands between pop culture and the almost like direct-to-video stuff. I mean, I think you can get away with more artistically by not necessarily wanting to have pop success.
Yeah. Like Jacqueline S. I mean, I don't know exactly how the script is going to turn out and if the movie is made, but for example, the last scene of it, and I'm going to say spoilers, move forward like 30 seconds if you don't want to hear what happens at the end of the story, but the protagonist, Vasi, actually the last scene is they're having sex, and his penis becomes like a sword-like thing, and with one stroke they kill each other. Jacqueline S. turns him into like a puddle of blood, and he stabs her to death, and that's it. And it's like, I'm just wondering, how are they going to change this in the movie? How are they going to take away this awesome scene that works in the story that made it iconic, and what are they going to put in instead? It's just I don't know. Let's wait and see on that.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting too, because sometimes they work when they're like it's funny because like with Dread, I think with us we don't like the changes that they made and the adaptation, right? But you could say that probably the Midnight Meat Train changes just as much as Dread, but that one's a good movie and Dread's not.
Sure, yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Well, and Hellraiser changes quite a bit also from the Hellbound Heart.
But I think we're more friendly towards those changes because they're done by the author who created the original material.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. He's.
If someone else had directed Hellraiser, then we probably would be complaining more about the changes that he did. Or like he changed Rory to Larry, and now Kirsty is his daughter instead of his friend. Right. It's like.
Yeah.
And the changes are good too, so that helps.
Yeah.
Well, we can go on here to round 2 really quick and just give our predictions. Of course, only half of them went on, so this is going to be half the size of round 1. Pinhead versus the female Cenobite. So, I mean, I'm pulling for the female Cenobite, and we've had Barbie Wild on our podcast a few times now, but unfortunately, I'm afraid, just...
Yeah, it's going to be a tough fight.
Yeah. I'll be voting for a female Cenobite, but I can understand,
Yeah.
Butterball versus Leviathan.
Probably Leviathan.
You think so? Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, I
as much I would vote for Leviathan personally because I just like that. That's my favorite movie. Is the
mine too.
But I think that there's something iconic about the original 4 Cenobites, and so I wouldn't be surprised if Butterball takes it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, sure.
Well, and an interesting thing is that the movies didn't give a rip about Leviathan and that version of Hell at all, but the comic books totally followed up on Hellraiser 2 and that whole mythology that was set up with that one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe Leviathan will fall on Butterball's head and smash him.
Yeah.
That's what happens in the movie.
Yeah.
So, the next up is going to be, I think it's going to be a wash for poor old CD because he's going to face Angelique. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think she's going to win.
Yeah, he's not going to make it. Sorry, CD. And Julia versus the Wire twins. I'd have
probably have to. There's a lot of fans of those Wire twins. That might be closer than you think, but Julia,
you think so?
I'd say, yeah, maybe.
I think Julia's gonna crush.
Laura Mal? Okay.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, the Wire twins are great, but the movie they're in.
No.
Yeah.
They're like the only good thing about the movie.
Yeah. So then we've got Harry D'Amour versus Christopher Carrion. I think this is also not going to be close.
For who? You talking about?
I think for Harry. I think Harry's going to take it.
Okay.
I've never read Aberrat, but I think the character design for Christopher Carrion is awesome. It's one of my favorite paintings, actually, of Clive's.
Christopher Carrion is kind of a tragic bad guy. So he's a sympathetic bad guy, and I don't know. That's going to be tough.
He's a little immature, though. He's a little immature. He strikes me as kind of like the emo version of Candy Quackenbush in the sense that he's a boy, but he's really, I was going to say he doesn't seem like he's all bad, but he's pretty bad.
He's like the Jaff.
So there's not really much in the way of redemption that I can see for this character in Aberrat, because he's pretty mean and he's pretty evil. But he's supposed to be like a young kid, right? He's supposed to be like a teenager or something. He's not
I think
a full-grown man. So I don't know. I would go for Harry D'Amour because I think he's a much more interesting character. There's a lot more backstory to him. I just like him better than Christopher Carrion.
And he's actually been in a more recent novel than Christopher Carrion, which is surprising.
Yeah. So speaking of the Jaff, that's the next match in the magical bracket.
Yeah.
He's going to face up Mr. Hood, and it's interesting because Mr. Hood is a vampire. The Jaff is kind of like this weird-looking monster-like super evolved creature.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't know who's going to win. They're both awesome villains.
Would it be fair to identify the Jaff as like a wizard? Do you guys think? How would you describe?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. That's a great description, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, like because he's not really a scientist. That was Fletcher in Great and Secret Show. He's more like the guy who has the idea, and then Fletcher is the guy who makes it happen. So
right.
He's also kind of like Christopher Carrion because he turns people's nightmares against them.
Mm-hmm.
He would make their nightmares become living things called Tarata.
Yeah, and I think the Jaff is going to win against Mr. Hood just because he's in 2 books. Well, no, he's not in 2 books. No, he's only in the Great and Secret Show, I think.
Next one is a very kid-friendly. It's Jimothy Terry versus the Yabu.
Yeah.
The Yabu might win, I think.
You think so?
I think so. I think the Jump Tribe, there's a lot of Jump Tribe fans out there.
But Jimothy Terry is a leader of a gang of cats. He's kind of like Top Cat on the cartoons.
I guess.
That's internet friendly.
Yeah, that's right.
And then we have Piopa versus the Rake.
Yeah. That's tough. I don't know. I mean, I think that Piopa is a better character. He has a lot more time, in his book. But that doesn't mean he's going to win. I mean, the Rake is cool. I'm not sure. Yeah,
the Rake doesn't really say much in the book, so. And
no,
then we have a really hard one, Nightbreed bracket. It's going to be Cabal versus Kinski, so it's going to be a tough match on this one because they're both so charismatic and so loved by the fans.
I'm going to probably predict that I think Cabal is going to win that one. Mm-hmm. Just being more of a main character, I think.
Yeah, I would assume.
Shuna Sassy versus Decker. That is going to be tough because I think those are two. I mean, with them and Peliquin, they're the 3 that people talk about the most. I don't know. I can't decide who. I can't predict.
I'm just thinking Decker will probably pull that out. I'm not sure.
Well, I think the fun here is to see what's going to happen during the voting round. So
Yeah.
we gotta push for people to use the hashtag Duels of Blood, and please share it around with your friends. Tell them to vote. If you got Clive Barker friends, Clive Barker fans that are friends, you should probably send them the link to this and see who they pick.
Chocolat versus. Oh, I put chocolate on here. I need to take the E off there.
Yeah.
Versus Ashbury. So probably Ashbury. I mean, he's more of a Chocolat is a peripheral character.
Chocolate and berries.
Yeah. Yeah, I do this stuff late at night, so.
And then we have Narcisse versus Rachel. That's the last match of the Nightbreed bracket. I predict Narcisse. But I think
so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He was such a beloved character that the studio didn't allow him to die in the theatrical cut.
That's right. Yeah.
The studio, they were big fans of him.
Okay, so we've got Nyx versus Tesla. Probably Nyx, because I'd say because he was in a movie, and he's got all the cool lines in Lord of Illusions are from Nyx.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I was born to murder the world.
Yeah.
You can't beat that, and the fire said to me, Nyx, you are my instrument. Yeah, that's such a cool thing. Did you guys?
I'll kill you when this is over. I have to.
Yeah. So Nyx is kind of like a mixture between Mammalian and I don't know. I think this character is not in the original Books of Blood story, The Last Illusion. Nyx doesn't exist in that story, so
no.
It's another one of those cases where Clive Barker ended up creating a better character when he adapted one of his stories to movie.
That's true. There wasn't any one main bad guy. I mean, I guess Butterfield was kind of he was the lawyer for Hell,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, and Jacobok versus Candyman. These two got put together because of where they were on the map, but honestly, I can't see Jacobok beating Candyman.
Yeah, I think Tony Todd is going to take this one home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Harvey Swick versus the Yattering. That's tough.
Yeah.
I think I would probably, me personally, I would vote for Harvey, but that doesn't mean he's going to win.
I would.
Yeah, I wonder how many people are more familiar with the Yattering than as opposed to.
Yeah. Well, the Books of Blood probably have had way more readers than the Thief of Highways.
And then finally, it's a weird matchup, but a strange one. But it's the city of Popolak from In the Hills, the Cities, versus Jacqueline S.
Yeah, so they're both Books of Blood stories, both good ones.
Mm-hmm. But because of the movie, idea being developed, I think Jacqueline S. might take this one.
But there's also In the Hills, the Cities is probably one of the most groundbreaking, interesting stories that people talk about from the Books of Blood.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't mean the city of Popolak is a good character.
I predict the city's going to stomp Jacqueline.
Let's hope so. Yay, Popolak.
Yeah, that's right. She's only one person, and that's like 1,000.
Yeah.
So Ryan, you wanted to talk about the fan art submissions for the Duels.
Yeah.
Okay.
So fan art, I mean, I wanted to keep it open and so people can do what they want. But fan art, what I was picturing was like political signs and things like that to try to influence people's voting. So if somebody wanted to make a positive sign for one of their characters, or a negative campaign, or a video, or like a Twitter campaign or something like that, and we've got prizes in each bracket. So if you make something for CD Head because you really love CD, then you would be eligible for the prize in the Hellraiser bracket, which is Clive Barker Society Pinhead T-shirt.
Oh, cool.
So, and there's one prize for each bracket. The one for the magical bracket is an Everville era Clive Barker promotional poster. And for the Nightbreed bracket, this is the poster that I got from. I've never hung it up or anything, but it's from the Director's Cut premiere in California for Nightbreed.
Yeah, the one that we went to, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
The one that kind of looks like the Cabal cut poster.
Yeah, that was made by Christian Francis.
Yeah, and then Age of Desire hardcover for the Bloody bracket.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so we've got 2 submissions already. They're both for Pinhead. So, but yeah, you bring those, put those in if you want us to notice them. You can put them on Twitter with the hashtag Duels of Blood, like all one word, or Facebook with that hashtag, or you can email them to us. And there's an email on the link at duelsofblood.com, or an email in the description.
Yeah, get cracking, people.
Yeah. So that's it. We got through. These are going to get shorter as we go along, but we got through round 1 results and the round 2 voting. So the voting is going to start on June 24th. So that's this. Oh wait, June 11th. Sorry, that's this coming tomorrow. Saturday. As we're recording this, it's tomorrow. But look at your calendars when you're listening to this. It's probably already going. So go over to Duels of Blood. If it's already past Saturday, then just start voting.
All right. That's Duels of Blood. We have a little treat for our audience today. I know that with all this talk about the new remake of Hellraiser, that isn't going anywhere, but now there's a new sequel that's being done, which is just being done for contractual reasons, really. But we decided that we were going to start talking about some of the Hellraiser treatments that never happened. So we just got a hold of some treatments for Hellraiser. A little bird dropped them on our desk, and so one of them that we're going to talk about today is something done by. And let me see if I can pronounce their names correctly here. Patrick Melton and Marcus Dunston. So this was supposed to be a unproduced treatment that was written in 26th of April of 2008. And I think I could go just a little intro here about the story of the Hellraiser remake idea. So basically the Hellraiser remake thing started out back in 2006. 2006, in October, Clive kind of let it slip in an interview with Phil and Sarah Stokes at Revelations that he had accepted an invitation to write the screenplay and to have a role in the film's production. I think he ended up writing a treatment first, so that's what some of the writers were working on. And at the time, it was reported by Variety that it was going to be Anthony DiBlasi and Joe Daly that would co-produce this Hellraiser remake. And then Richard Saperstein and Matthew Stein would be overseeing it for Dimension. The first duo that was attached to direct this movie was Alexandre Bustillo and Julian Maury. And I think that were these the people who did Inside, that horror movie, I think?
Yeah, I don't know that one.
Okay.
Yes, the French film.
Yeah, à l'intérieur, which means inside. Yeah. So that was Julian Maury. So so those are the first 2 people that Weinstein's kind of tapped in to direct the Hellraiser remake. And at first it was cool. I mean, Clive was excited about them, and I think he had been sent a copy of the movie Inside to watch by the Weinstein, and he kind of liked it, and he thought that they really nailed some of the bloodiness and gore that would be necessary for a movie like this. So, so they announced that there was like a tentative date for this new remake, which was going to be September of 2008, and then that just got pushed on to January of 2009, and then they replaced those writers with Marcus Dunston and Patrick Melton, who were they first broke into the business, I think, with Project Greenlight.
Yeah.
Yes.
Where they ended up making a movie called Feast. And then there was Feast 2, Feast 3, and and these guys also wrote movies like Saw 4, 5, 6, Saw 3D, Piranha 3, 3D Double D. So I guess that their writing credentials are flawlessly described with this intro, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway, so for this one, they were earning six figures for the job of writing the Hellraiser remake for Dimension Films, which after you read this treatment, it's kind of like baffling how they were, being paid six figures for this because
that's the whole budget of the movie.
Right. So okay, so here we go. And all right, so you guys all read this?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
So what did you think about it? So
Hated it.
Yeah.
Hated everything
short
about
and
it.
to the point. I like it.
I hated everything about it.
I'm with Rob. I'm with Rob. If I was watching this and it was a movie, I would be angry.
Yeah, that's what I put in my notes. I put, and overall, I'm so glad this wasn't made. It would have made it a real travesty of a film and another remake that would have left the diehard fans angry and another nail in the coffin for the Hellraiser movie universe.
Yeah. I thought about it. I thought if this was something where they had like an anthology of different storytelling, this would work maybe well as just some, small story like within like the epic comic series where you can deviate from the norm. And, I'm open to it, but I'm not as a major film or not as, a Hellraiser film that's in its entirety. It's just...
and this is supposed to be a remake of Hellraiser?
It felt like more like Wishmaster or something.
Yeah, it's nuts. Yeah, there's part where Pinhead chains up people and cuts them all up or whatever and uses their fears against them, and then he eats them.
I know, that's what I put.
Like, what? What?
Well, it's not as far as the concept goes. That idea was not entirely without precedent. I mean, there's a Peter Atkins unproduced script for Hellraiser 3 where Pinhead is brought back from being killed in Hellraiser 2 by a renegade priest would pick up his scraps from the torture pillar and he would put them in a vat and he would kind of grow a second Pinhead. And then there would be like this house that was made by Le Marchand that would it was a bordello and it would trap people there. And then it would just like, when they died in the house, their bodies would be sent down a chute into the vat so Pinhead could.
Yeah, I remember.
Okay.
Well, and also in Hellraiser 3, the torture pillar ate that woman right after it pulled her skin off.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
But so what I thought was interesting in this treatment by Melton and Dunston is that it starts in China, and of all the places to begin, I mean, I posted on our blog some time ago. I decided that after the news for the remake had come out, I said I have this old treatment that I wrote back in 2006, a fan treatment about a Hellraiser story or a Hellraiser sequel, and mine would also take place in China, and I'll put a link to the show notes to my fan treatment. So
I think you're going to be contacting your attorneys.
Yeah, I was
What was the name of your treatment? It's not the one that was called Knots? Was that the one that you...
No, that's
okay.
That was a different story, but the one I had didn't really have a title. It was just like three guys would read in the newspaper that the box had been found in China, and so they went there, and it would be Kircher, a guy called Silva, and a couple other guys. So I was incorporating Kircher in my treatment because I wanted him to be like kind of a puzzle guardian at the end. But, I'll add the show notes to it, and people can read it. So this one opens up in China in 1054 AD. And I just realized that in the treatments that we have here, I have two versions of this treatment. One that was made in April, and the other was made in June. And the one made in June already has a few added stuff to it. So I guess we didn't have time to read that second version, so we'll just focus on this one. But yeah, it's a bunch of it's just tropes and tropes, because you have like an ensemble cast of 20-something graduate students, and even the treatment,
college.
Yeah, and even the treatment says that they're in their early 20s, beyond the party atmosphere of their undergraduate years, but not too deep into adulthood that they no longer know how to have fun. So. And I'm like, why is this here? This is just going to be like not teenagers, but young people getting killed by Pinhead. Already, I hate this.
Oh, and then there's going to be some awkward part in the beginning of the movie where they all describe their different phobias, so that they can come back later and use, Pinhead can use them against them.
True. So the story in broad strokes is, in China in 1054, the box is constructed and then the volcano erupts for some reason, and just as the terrorized man dies holding the box, you see like a glimpse of Pinhead. And so years later, they dig up this box, and this professor, who has like these graduate students, he brings the box to them, and he says, "Oh, hey, look at this cool box," and there's a legend that there was a legend of the ancient children's toy known as a wishing box. So you press the button, make a wish, and it'll come true. And then, of course, he gives it to his grad students and says, "Try it out." And that's the whole premise for this whole thing. I never heard of this wishing box children's toy legend thing. I think it's just made up for this treatment, really.
Yeah, well, and maybe they figure because it's a remake, they can say whatever they want about the box, and it doesn't have to relate to the other movies.
Yeah.
But that's weird. The whole thing still felt like a direct-to-video film.
Oh yeah.
I was reading. It still felt like one of those direct-to-video movies.
Definitely. And the way they're turning, it's like a college building, right, with classrooms and stuff that becomes the final, hell. Like, now I moved hell to earth. It's like, well, that sounds inexpensive.
Mm-hmm. And that way they did the story of like hell, they still don't understand. They use a literal hell. That's not what Hellraiser's hell is.
Yeah.
It's not about heaven and hell like that.
Well, it is kind of interesting though, because that's what the Scarlet Gospels is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So him trying to kill Lucifer and storm heaven and stuff is kind of. It's kind of in Scarlet Gospels and in the Hellraiser, the Boom Studios comics.
I was really amazed by the Leviathan documentary that so much of what I loved about the Hellraiser mythology actually comes from Tony Randall, as opposed to being from Clive. It seems like Clive's image of hell is more of the traditional, thought on heaven and hell, whereas a lot of the really imaginative stuff that we as Hellraiser fans have come to love is actually from Tony Randall. So
it seemed like a dueling. It was like a dueling, sort of in a good way, between Peter Atkins and Tony Randall and their different ideas of what hell was going to be, kind of mashed together to make what Hellraiser 2 was, which was really neat. I think Tony Randall had more of an atheistic and hell is in your mind kind of an idea, and Peter Atkins was more literal and wanted like a Leviathan to be like a Lovecraftian kind of
It was called The Great Wound. Just hung in space.
You can still see remnants of that pulsating glob of evil Leviathan in the tentacle that attaches itself to Chenard.
Mm-hmm. Oh, exactly.
Yeah, because that was supposed to be one of Leviathan's tentacles. So, affectionately called the Penisaurus on set. So, like you were saying, Rob, some of this part, one of the things about this is that it seems like Melton and Dunston never actually saw a Hellraiser movie in their lives. Okay? Or read a comic.
They'd say they were fans.
Yeah. Because there's parts in here that just tell me that, they just don't care about anything that was in the original Hellraisers. Because, for example, Pinhead, there's one time when he is killing someone and he makes the ground open up and it drags them to hell. And it's like, one of the things about hell that's such a overused trope is that, hell is under the ground, it's down there,
Yeah.
I just think that's so overplayed. I mean,
and the kind of the neat thing about Hellraiser was that hell was another world that sort of overlapped with ours, and you could split it. Right. You could cut a
like another skin or something.
Yeah, exactly. And you could kind of cut a wound in between the two, and then the Cenobites would come out.
You would just cross the schism, and you. So that's
what pulled them down to hell? What was ripping them apart too? It didn't really go into that. I mean, were the hooks ripping them apart, or?
I would assume.
Very vague. I know this is just a treatment they probably had.
Yeah. I mean, you would hope that a script would be better, but holy cow!
I'm just gonna go ahead and spoil some of the parts in the ending because the ending it's not even that original. The ending is, of course, that the professor who gives him the box to click on. And keep in mind, nowadays in this movie, you don't even have to solve the box anymore. The box is fundamentally changed. The box is just a clicking box. It's push a button, get chained, and it's he made a deal with Pinhead to deliver like 20 bodies to it.
20
and I'm
souls.
Like,
all of his undergraduate classes.
It's not even 20 souls. It's 20 bodies because Pinhead eats them, I guess. And it's just so like not original. Like just look at Kirsty in Hellseeker. That's what she does. Yeah. She does deal with Pinhead to offer 5 souls or whatever.
Well, and this thing about Pinhead turning people's fears against them, it seems like they mistook Pinhead for Freddy Krueger.
That's what they're turning Pinhead into Freddy.
Yeah.
It's that's annoying.
Yeah.
So most of this stuff would take place in an archaeology building on a campus, I guess, and we'd have characters like Felicia and Mason, and it's
Sylvia,
and Sylvia. So it kind of reminded me a little bit of Hellraiser 3, the unproduced script by Peter Atkins, except much crappier.
Yeah.
I mean, Pinhead in this was going to be like he was going to look different. He was going to be like I think in the Peter Atkins script, I've only read it once, but didn't the Pinhead in that get bigger, stronger? Wasn't he going to turn into like
and he had
taller and bigger?
Yes.
And he had like a carapace, like beetle armor on him.
Yeah.
Instead of clothes.
That would have been cool though, but that would have taken Pinhead in a much more different direction.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would be okay with it though because it was Peter Atkins. But
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
In this one, there's actually a line where it says that the reason why Pinhead wanted bodies and people was because Pinhead is a demon that consumes human flesh to gain strength, and according to legend, who knows where this legend comes from, his end game is, get this, build an army to overtake the devil and eventually storm heaven. So, yeah.
I read that. I threw this down. I literally threw this down. I was like, man, what the hell is this?
I read it on my iPad, so I wasn't going to throw it.
Yeah, you could throw it down. Cost you a few bucks.
It was very disappointing. There's a second version that I'm looking at right now, and there's a few more things that they added to it, and I guess we can get into that on a next segment about this. But yeah, so I don't know, 5 figures for this. It's just I was talking to David, our friend David from
Anderson.
Yeah, David Anderson, and I was talking to him about this particular treatment, and he just sent me back a message saying, these treatments just really are a record of the Weinstein burning large amounts of cash.
That's why they're in such financial peril.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then they ended up spending that amount of money on Hellraiser Revelations for what, 5 years later?
Yeah.
3 years later.
Revelations had like a $500,000 budget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
6 figures. They paid the writers of this more than
it's not
budget for Revelations.
That's not even a script.
Yeah.
We could all make treatments for Hellraiser.
I know, right? And we could probably do a much better job than these hacks. These guys are hacks, okay? It's horrible.
I've seen the Collector movies, and I've seen those Saw films. The ones they started writing the Saw films when he died, were the ones I lost interest in those films, and I've never seen Feast, so I can't.
I haven't seen any of these movies.
Oh, but this is not even the worst treatment that we have on the pile here to talk about. Trust me.
Great.
I can't wait.
There's one by this guy called Goldfinger and another guy called Stolberg that is just it's
Goldfinger.
Yeah. True. Yeah, I know, right? Weird name, but there is one, and I don't know. We'll be getting to this.
I want to go to IMDb and look up Goldfinger now.
Yeah.
See what his work is.
Yeah. We have some of the titles that we're going to be getting into. One of them is Hellraiser Redux. The Box is back by Corey Gooden. There's Hellraiser, pitched by Pete Goldfinger and Josh Stolberg. And we also have, what else do we got here in the pile? Hellraiser unproduced. This is the one we're talking about. Yeah, we have a few lined up. So yeah, I guess we're gonna call this feature like the many deaths of the Hellraiser remake.
Yeah.
Yeah. Volume 1.
Graduate students beware.
Like also in the box wasn't even made by a toy maker. It said it made by a demon out of human pain and suffering, crushed bone, boiling blood, and dried flesh.
And it has and I think the movie opens with that demon making the box, right?
Yeah.
Somehow.
Well, I hope.
But it just has one button.
Wood and cod.
Yeah.
But the thing is that from what this treatment talks about, the box would just be not even as interesting as the original Hellraiser, because it would just be like a box with a button or something. I don't know what.
Yeah, that's it. It wouldn't even be like the classic box.
Yeah, of course they would.
Well, that'd be the shame if they actually used the same design like they do in every movie.
That's what I know. I would be afraid that they would do that.
Yeah, I'm wondering if they're, if they were thinking about using that face of the box that has a little clicking button in the middle. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Right, the little circle button and right in the center.
I think it's so much better to imagine the box from the Hellbound Heart and Hellraiser, a box that has secrets and secret panels that you rotate, and you spend like days or weeks trying to open it up, and you devote your life to it, and you become obsessed with it until finally you're rewarded by opening a gateway to another dimension. That's so much more interesting than, just click on this button and make a wish. And
they're writing for millennials, so it's like you point and you click,
God.
Millennial.
Yeah. So, hey, I also read The Affair of the Reticulated Box. I read the first part of it. Yeah, from your website, Max, from the Pyramid Gallery. Where it's
actually originally printed in Cœnobium Magazine back in the 90s.
Oh, cool.
It was in the first 2 chapters were in the last 2 issues of the series of magazines that were put out. Fanzines, actually.
Yeah. I would just like to get into that just for a few minutes because
wonderful.
I think that's so much better than the treatment that we read.
Oh, yeah.
Cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it opens with this beautiful fake quote from a fictional book. And it says, "And measureless leagues of hell may stand invisibly on every hand." And the interesting thing is that the author who wrote the story, I forgot his name.
Renfrew Werfner. It's actually
kind of
a little. Yeah, it's a puzzle. It reads the same way the name is written backwards.
Oh, it's a palindrome.
It's a palindrome.
Yeah, palindrome.
Okay, so this quote, he attributes it to an author called William Ashbless. And I looked it up. I thought this was just made up by the author, but I looked up William Ashbless, and he is a fictional poet invented by fantasy writers James Blaylock and Tim Powers in 1970. So I was surprised that all through this story, you can Google up some stuff, and you will find little bits of truth and fact and fantasy that are just blended together to create this awesome story. And I right now, I think both me, Ryan, and Rob were trying to read the Paul Kane book, Sherlock Holmes and the Servants of Hell. And,
that's right. You guys got an advance copy of that, didn't you?
Yeah, we did. So it's
awesome.
It's been very interesting. And you mentioned on the last episode that this story was kind of like a Sherlock Holmes story.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, because
maybe not. Maybe I think there's something more insidious about these 2 investigators, though, because it opens up with him cleaning almost a Jack the Ripper kit, So
yeah,
it's
the surgical case and the scalpels, right? Yeah, it's kind of a Sherlock Holmes and Watson, except their names are
Trismegistos.
Yeah, that's it. So Trismegistos Herms. And
that's actually based on the legend of the Egyptian god of knowledge. It means the thrice great, like great Herms.
Oh, okay. And Ambrose Jekyll or Jekyll, I don't know how. I think that back in the day of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, I think that the author said that it was pronounced Jekyll, so I've always pronounced it Jekyll.
Okay, cool.
So, and those two guys are like the Sherlock Holmes and Watson of this story. And the first part is really interesting. They get this gentleman visitor who has a case for them, and for example, Herms, instead of Sherlock Holmes plays a violin, but Herms plays a steam calliope. So there's kind of the parallel there. So very interesting story so far. I've been reading the first part, and I do appreciate the changes and the way they depict Leviathan. It's a very interesting depiction of Leviathan, because they say that Leviathan is not so much a god; it's more like a machine, right? Mm-hmm. Like this.
Yeah, the later chapters go in even deeper, but yeah, they do a wonderful kind of survey of him in this first chapter. But I believe the third or fourth chapter goes even deeper into what type of power Leviathan is. So there's a lot of that in the story.
Yeah, that Leviathan would be kind of more machine than God, that it has no intelligence or imagination, and acts in a fixed and inexorable manner upon those that summon it, according to their desires, their expectations, their fears, and their knowledge. And there's a line in here that I really enjoyed, in which one character says, "So you just tell Leviathan what you want and he gives it to you?" And he uses an analogy saying, well, there's an old saying, you drink the first bottle drinks the second bottle, and the third bottle drinks you. And so in a way they say that you tell Leviathan what you want, what you want tells Leviathan what it wants, and then Leviathan does what it wants with you. So I think that's such a great analogy, and you can apply this to the Hellraiser movies, and I think it works very well.
Yeah. Well, this was written soon after, Hellbound. I think this was probably written during the time that maybe Hellraiser 3 was coming out. So there was all this expectation about what the third movie was going to be like. So I think this is what the author was going for. He was writing in that trajectory that the second movie had taken with Leviathan.
Cool.
Yeah. So
you had this on the last show notes?
Yes.
Yeah, I'd like to. It's very interesting. I have not read started. It's like broken into 6 parts.
4.
4 parts.
Oh, 4 parts. Okay.
By the way, I noticed that in this page where you have a beautiful picture of Misery's Canticle, the box that was made by Ed Martinez, right?
Yeah, it comes from the magazine itself, Cœnobium.
Yeah. So I remembered that the picture was taken by Michael Lee. So I was just wondering what's up with Michael Lee. I noticed that his story page no longer exists on Facebook.
It's a mystery, because everybody I've talked to and tried to track him down with does. He's kind of broke off contact with everybody. I know he was saying he had some health issues at one point. Yeah. But it's a mystery to me.
All right. I was just wondering about that, because I followed the link from your page, and it just said that page didn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I hope he's doing okay then.
Yeah.
So, we'll be talking more about this story. It's really cool, and I am going to make a review of this once I've done reading it.
Excellent.
So, we'll add it again to the show notes for our viewers listeners who haven't read the story yet.
It's so awesome, because I think of all the of all the things that I've seen as far as fan stuff done, I think this is one of the it's one of the more interesting takes on Hellraiser, and really uplifting that second movie as far as the ideas that were behind it, and like you said, Brian, the ideas that Randall and Atkins came together and kind of married this wonderful idea of what hell was. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And also it takes place in kind of this Victorian-like time, which I think suits Hellraiser a lot. It's a very interesting time.
Gaslit.
Yeah, Hellraiser.
That is cool.
I think the original idea for Hellraiser 3 was to follow the footsteps of a family in Victorian London. And then they decided to change it to the Le Marchand family in Paris, France. So I always wondered, in an alternate reality, how would have that turned out if Hellraiser 4 had been about, a family in London. That would have taken Hellraiser in a great direction, I would say.
Oh yeah.
Or 3.
Yeah, or 3. Yeah, depends.
Yeah.
Like, I thought, in a way, taking turning LeMarchand into like a good guy for that particular movie was, in the past segment, I think the original, at least the scripted version by Peter Atkins, he wanted a more darker version of that character in that particular segment. But I didn't really, now that I've read a lot of the backstory and, comic books and stuff like what Max and them have done with the character, that painting that I was telling you about, that pretty much is that character to me. And it's hard for me to picture him being like this little toy maker that's. And
for the people who never read the comic books and all they were exposed to was, Bloodline, I think, I understand where they're coming from as far as that's what they accept as the story, but they have to understand that comic book came out before the movie, and so there's a lot of us when we heard about it coming out, we were expecting that serial killer from the comic book to be portrayed on film, and so it's kind of a letdown,
And I was one of those people too. I didn't know any of that, so
Who is that old guy, DeLille, right? He seems more like
the LeMarchand.
Yeah, exactly. If they had kind of, and he could have had a son that was good, later on, that would have been okay.
Right. It's like they split the character into two,
Yeah. So.
That's a good point. We should probably ask Peter Atkins about that. Yeah. I'd love to bring Peter Atkins back to the show. That would be amazing.
I've asked him about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He just hasn't got back to me on it.
Okay, that's great. So that's something to look for in the next few months, I guess. Max, what is the next event that you're going to be at?
At this point, my next event is the Days of the Dead in Louisville, Kentucky, September 2nd through 4th. Mm-hmm. It's so far there's a small Hellraiser reunion being formed. Right now, it's Doug Bradley and Imogen Borman are going to be attending.
Cool.
But we're hoping that there'll be others that'll join on. There's rumors about other people, but even it takes time sometimes, and so it's still a little ways out till the fall. So.
All right. Excellent. So just reminding people about Louisville, Kentucky's Day of the Dead. I guess Louisville, Kentucky today is kind of mourning.
Yes.
Yeah, because Muhammad Ali is getting buried today. I know this is off topic.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, Max, thanks for being with us again for Duels of Blood Round 2 and talking about this horrible, horrible treatment in the many, many depths of the Hellraiser remake.
Well, thanks for having me.
You can find the show notes for this page and lots of Clive Barker's news and features at www.clivebarkercast.com. Please follow us on Twitter, @BarkerCast or @OccupyMidian. Like us on Facebook and join the Occupy Midian Facebook group. You can listen on the site or subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Libsyn, TuneIn, Pocket Casts, Google Play, and Double Twist. Subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. Please take a couple of minutes and leave us a review on iTunes. It means the world to us and helps us spread the word about Clive Barker. The Clive Barker Podcast, or BarkerCast, is an independent editorial fan site and podcast that's not affiliated with or under contract by Clive Barker or Seraphim Films. This is a labor of love by the fans, for the fans.
Thanks for listening.